Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Tonight, I pulled a story straight from the depths of Reddit. This is a kind of story that starts slow and then refuses to let go. It is unsettling. It is personal. And once you hear it, you will not forget it. So get comfortable, turn the lights down, and let us begin. I thought confessing would free me. It only made things worse. They say the truth will set you free, but they never tell you about the wreckage it leaves behind on the way out. I spent 3 years carrying a secret that felt like a jagged piece of glass, lodged in my throat. Every time I swallowed, every time I smiled at my wife, or laughed with my brother, it cut a little deeper. I thought that by saying the words out loud, I could finally breathe again. I thought that if I just owned up to what happened that night in the rain, the universe would somehow balance the scales. But the universe doesn't care about your conscience. It only cares about the consequences. It started with a fender bender. Or at least, that's what I told myself. For a long time, it was a Tuesday night, 3 years ago, and I was driving home from a late shift at the warehouse. The rain was coming down in thick, heavy sheets, the kind that turned the asphalt into a black mirror. I was exhausted. I was fiddling with the radio, trying to find something that wasn't static. When I felt the thump, it wasn't a loud sound. It was soft, wet, like a bag of mulch, falling off a truck. I slammed on the brakes, my car fishtailing slightly. On the slick road, I sat there for a second, my heart hammering against my ribs. I looked in the rearview mirror, but all I saw was the red glow of my taillights, reflecting off the rain. I told myself it was a deer. I told myself it was a fallen branch. I was so tired, so desperate to get home, to my warm bed, that I didn't get out of the car. I just put it back in gear and drove away. The next morning, the local news reported a hit and run on Highway 42. A young man, a college student named Elias, had been walking home when he was struck. He didn't die instantly. The report said he had been lying in the ditch for hours, alive and conscious, until the cold finally took him. I didn't go to the police. I didn't tell my wife, Chloe. I just buried it. I fixed a dent in my bumper with a rubber mallet and some touch-up paint, and I went on with my life. But you don't just go on from something like that. Every time I saw a police car, my stomach turned to lead. Every time Chloe talked about our future, I felt like a fraud. The guilt wasn't a sudden explosion. It was a slow, agonizing erosion of everything I thought I was. You've been so distant lately, Mark. Chloe said to me last month. We were sitting on the back porch, watching the fireflies, and her voice carried a quiet sadness. That broke me. It's like you're here, but you're miles away. Is it work? Is it us? It's not you, Chloe. I whispered. It's never been you. The weight of it finally became too much to bear. I decided I couldn't live another day as a liar. I thought that if I confessed, I could serve my time, pay my debt, and maybe, just maybe, find a way to be the man she deserved. I walked into the local precinct on a Tuesday morning, the same day of the week it had happened. I told the sergeant at the desk everything. I gave them the date, the time, the location. I even showed them the faint ripple in the metal of my bumper where I'd tried to hide the truth. I expected handcuffs. I expected a cell. I expected the cold, hard reality of justice. Instead, the sergeant looked at my statement, then looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite name. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even shock. It was a kind of weary, dark amusement. You're the third person this month to come in and confess to that hit and run, Mark, he said, leaning back in his chair. What? That's impossible. I stammered. I know it was me. I felt the hit. I saw the news. Oh, it was you, he said, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous growl. But you see, we already closed that case. We arrested a kid 6 months after it happened. A local troublemaker named Leo. He's serving 15 to life for it right now. But he didn't do it. I shouted, my voice echoing through the sterile lobby. I'm telling you, I did it. The sergeant stood up and walked around the desk. He leaned in so close. I could smell the stale coffee on his breath. Listen to me very carefully, Mark. Leo was a nuisance. He was a drain on this town's resources, and he had a record a mile long. The community wanted a win. The parents wanted a monster, so we gave them one. If you come out now and tell the truth, you don't just free yourself. You ruin the DA. You ruin the chief. You ruin the closure that family finally found. He handed my statement back to me. The paper crumpled from his grip. Go home, Mark. Forget you were ever here, because if you try to make this right, I promise you, we will make sure you regret the day you ever learned how to speak. I stood in the parking lot of the precinct for what felt like an hour, just staring at the crumpled paper in my hand. The sun was beating down on the asphalt, creating shimmering heat waves. That made everything look like it was melting. That's exactly how I felt. Like the solid reality of my life was liquefying right under my boots. I had walked into that building, expecting the heavy hand of the law to crush me. Instead, I'd been shoved back out into the world with a secret 10 times more volatile than the one I'd brought in. I got into my car, the interior baking in the heat, and I just sat there. I didn't start the engine. I didn't turn on the AC. I stared at the station doors, waiting for the sergeant to walk out and tell me it was a joke, a test, some twisted measure of my character. But the door stayed shut. The world kept moving. A mother walked by pushing a stroller. A mail truck rattled past. They had no idea that a few feet away, the entire concept of justice had just been fed into a paper shredder. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing through every face involved. Leo, I remembered the name from the local papers. Leo Vance, just a kid from the wrong part of town, in and out of trouble since he was 15. The articles painted him as a remorseless punk who left a dying boy in a ditch without a second thought. I had read those stories back then with a sick sense of relief. If the cops caught him, they must have had evidence. I used his conviction as a shield to protect my own soul. Now that shield was a mirror, and I couldn't stand what I saw. When I got home, Chloe was in the garden, her son hat tilted forward as she pulled weeds from the flower beds. She looked peaceful, grounded, connected to the earth. Part of me wanted to run to her, fall to my knees, and tell her everything. I wanted her to tell me what to do, but the sergeant's words echoed in my head. You ruined the closure that family finally found. If I told Chloe, I wasn't just unburdening myself. I'd be turning her into an accomplice, dragging her into the line of fire. Hey, Mark, she called out, wiping dirt from her cheek. You're home early. Everything okay at the office? Yeah, I lied, the word tasting like copper. Just a slow day. Thought I'd help with the mulch. You look like you've seen a ghost, she said, that familiar intuition sharpening her gaze. Just the heat, babe. I'm gonna grab some water. I went to my office and locked the door. I didn't get water. I got my laptop. I searched for Leo's defense attorney, Julian Graves. Back then, he'd been a public defender. The article said he'd fought the case, tooth and nail. He called the forensic evidence circumstantial at best, manufactured at worst. The media crucified him for re-traumatizing the victim's family. I found an address in the next county over. He wasn't a public defender anymore, just private practice now, low-level misdemeanors. I grabbed my keys and headed back out, telling Chloe I forgot a contract. At the warehouse, the drive was 40 minutes of pure paranoia. Every car that followed me too long sent my heart into my throat. I kept checking the mirror, looking for cruiser blue or a plain black sedan. I was a loose thread in a very expensive suit. People like that don't like loose threads. Graves' office sat in a strip mall between a laundromat and a tax prep place. The waiting room smelled like stale cigarettes and cheap cleaner. When I finally met him, he didn't look like a crusader. He looked tired, defeated, like a man who'd forgotten what winning felt like. "Mr. Graves," I said, sitting on the edge of the chair. "My name is Mark. I'm here about the Elias hit and run." He froze. His hand hovered over stapler as he slowly looked up. "That case is closed," he said. "Leo is at Greenhaven. There are no more appeals." "He didn't do it," I whispered. "I did." I told him everything. The silence that followed was thick, crushing. Graves didn't look shocked. He looked exhausted. "They told you to go home," he said. "Did they mention the headlight? The DNA? The witness who suddenly remembered?" "I don't know any of that," I said. "I just know I hit him. I've lived with it every day. If you go public." Graves said, "They'll destroy you." He leaned forward. "You're not a man with a conscience. You're a walking mistrial. There's an innocent kid in prison." I snapped. "And a family who thinks justice was done." He replied, "They won't call you a hero. They'll want you dead." I stood up, dizzy, so I just live with it. "I didn't say that," he murmured. He pulled back the blinds. Across the street sat a white Ford Explorer, a man inside, sunglasses on, watching us. "That's Detective Miller." Graves said, "He's been there since you arrived." My stomach went cold. "They won't let you talk," he continued. "And if you try to leave, accidents happen." I wasn't just guilty anymore. I was a target. "Go home," Graves said softly. "Be a good husband. Don't come back." I left, my legs moving like they were underwater. The white Explorer followed me to the county line. Not close, not far. When I pulled into my driveway, Chloe was on the porch. She watched the Explorer linger at the end of the street before slowly driving away. "Who was that, Mark?" she asked, shaking. "That car's been circling for an hour." I looked at her, the woman I loved more than life. The truth hadn't set me free. It had turned my home into a prison, and I was the one who locked the doors. I spent the next 3 days in a state of hyper-aware paralysis. Every time a car slowed near our mailbox, my heart climbed into my throat. Every time the phone rang, I expected a voice telling me exactly how my life was going to end. Chloe watched me with a mix of pity and growing fear. The distance between us was no longer a crack. It was a canyon. I couldn't tell her that the plain white Explorer was still making rounds. At 3 a.m, I couldn't tell her that I'd found a small black device magnetically attached to the underside of my rear bumper. They weren't even being subtle anymore. They wanted me to feel the leash tightening. But guilt is a strange thing. Once it's out in the open, it stops being a weight and starts being a fire. I couldn't sit in my office, waiting for them to decide. I was too much of a risk. If Leo was in a cage because of me, then I owed him more than silent regret. I waited until Chloe left for her mother's house. I knew they were watching the home, but I also knew the neighborhood rhythms. The gardener across the street arrived at 2 every Friday. His leaf blower created a screen of noise and dust. I slipped out the back door, hopped the fence, and disappeared into the woods. I hiked a mile through brush to a gas station where I'd hidden an old mountain bike. The night before, I didn't go back to Graves. I went back to the source. Highway 42 hadn't changed much. More cracks in the asphalt, taller weeds in the median, but the bend near the old creek bridge was unmistakable. I pedaled until I reached it and stopped. The wind whipped my hair as I stared into the ditch where Elias had spent his final hours. The police had processed this place, but they hadn't been looking for truth. They'd been looking for a reason to arrest Leo. I climbed down into the ditch, mud sucking at my sneakers. I didn't know what I was searching for, glass, paint, anything they'd ignored. I spent 2 hours on my hands and knees, sifting through dead leaves and crushed soda cans. My fingers went raw. My back screamed, but I couldn't stop. It was the only way. I still felt human. Then I saw it, near the concrete culvert, half buried in silt, a small plastic rectangle. I pulled it free and wiped away the grime. A dash cam, or what was left of one. My heart rolled heavy in my chest. I remembered the rain, the wind. I remembered a truck passing me, seconds before the impact, if it had a camera, and if the storm knocked it loose. I pried the casing open with my pocket knife. Inside, sealed and dry, was a micro SD card. A miracle, a tiny sliver of truth, waiting in the mud. For 3 years, I didn't go home. I went to a 24-hour library. In the next town, I found a terminal in the back and plugged the card in. The files were dated. November 12, 2016. I clicked the one, marked 11:12 p.m. The video was grainy. Windshield wipers swept across the frame. Headlights flared and vanished. Then I saw my car, my silver sedan. I saw myself, or the shape of my head, looking down at the radio. And then I saw Elias. He was wearing a reflective vest. I froze the frame. My breath caught. He wasn't just walking. He was standing near the road. Visible, clearly visible. In the video, I saw the truth. I hadn't just hit him. I had swerved. Only a few inches, but enough. Then the video kept playing, and the blood drained from my face. After I drove away, another car pulled up. Not an ambulance, a patrol car. The lights flashed once. A figure stepped out. I recognized the silhouette. Miller. He didn't call for help. He didn't check a pulse. He stood there, watching the road, where I had disappeared. Then he bent down, picked something up, and tossed it into the woods. He drove away, leaving Elias alone in the dark. The library lights flickered as the world spun around me. This wasn't just a cover-up. It was an execution by neglect. They hadn't just found a monster. They made sure there was a body. If Miller had called it in, Elias might have lived. Find what you were looking for, Mark? I spun around. Detective Miller stood at the end of the bookshelves. No sunglasses now, just flat gray eyes. Empty. A suppressed pistol rested against his thigh. Libraries are quiet places. He whispered, stepping closer. People don't hear much back here. I have the video, I said, shaking. I uploaded it to cloud. If I don't check in every hour, it goes to the state attorney, every news outlet. It was a lie, but Miller paused. He studied my face. You're a bad liar, he said softly. You're a man of conscience. That makes you predictable. You want Chloe safe first. He stepped closer. I backed into the desk. You're right, I said. I do want her safe, but I'm done being a coward. I didn't run. I lunged for the fire alarm. I smashed the glass. The siren exploded through the library. Miller cursed. Students ran. Librarians shouted. Chaos flooded the room. In the confusion, I dove behind a shelf and sprinted for the emergency exit. The siren from the library was still a jagged, piercing scream. Behind me, as I sprinted through the parking lot, my lungs felt filled with broken glass. Every breath was a frantic fight against the cold night air. I didn't look back at the white Explorer. I didn't look for Miller. I threw myself onto the mountain bike and pedaled with desperate animal strength, cutting away from the main road into narrow, unlit alleys behind the town's main strip. I had to get to Chloe. That was the only thought in my head. A single, burning imperative that drowned out everything else. Miller knew my bluff was a lie, but he also knew that as long as I was alive, the video was a ticking time bomb. I reached the trailhead, where I'd left my car earlier. I dumped the bike into the brush and tore out of the lot, tires screaming against gravel. I didn't go straight home. I knew they'd be waiting there. Instead, I pulled into the lot of a 24-hour diner, 3 miles away, and grabbed the burner phone from the glove box. "Chloe, listen to me." I whispered when she answered, her voice thick with sleep and fear. "Don't ask questions. Grab your go bag and the emergency cash from the safe. Walk out the back door. Stay in the shadows. Meet me at the old quarry. Do not turn on your headlights. If you see a white explorer, run." "Mark, what's happening? You're scaring me." "I love you, Chloe. Just do it. Now." I hung up and headed for the quarry. It sat on the edge of the county, a moon-scarred wasteland, where the earth had been carved away and left to rot. A perfect place for a final meeting or a shallow grave. I arrived 10 minutes later, my headlights slicing through swirling dust. Chloe was already there, standing beside her car, her face frozen in terror. I jumped out and pulled her into a hug, feeling her heart slam against mine. "I found it, Chloe," I said, pulling the SD card from my pocket. "I found the reason they framed Leo. It wasn't a mistake. It was Miller. He let that boy die." "Mark, we have to go." "To the state police," she sobbed. "We have to leave the county." "We aren't leaving," a voice said from the darkness. Floodlights snapped on. 3 patrol cars lit up at once, blinding us. Engines roared as they boxed us in, red and blue lights bouncing off granite walls. Like a fever dream, Miller stepped out of the lead car. The sheriff followed him, along with 2 deputies. I recognized immediately. "Give us the card, Mark," the sheriff said calmly. "You've made a mess of things, but we can still fix this. You bring us the evidence. You're a hero. Leo gets a new trial. Everyone wins." "You're a liar," I screamed, holding the card over the deep pit behind me. "I saw the video. I saw Miller watch him die. You aren't fixing anything. You're going to bury us right here." The sheriff sighed and nodded to Miller. Then the world exploded. A rifle cracked from the ridge above. The bullet struck inches from my feet, spraying limestone into the air. Chloe screamed. I shoved her behind the car, my mind racing. "Last chance, Mark." Miller shouted, his pistol raised. I looked at the SD card. I looked at Chloe. Then I looked at the dashboard. The burner phone was still there, still connected. "It's already gone." I yelled. I didn't upload it to a cloud. I sent it to Julian Graves. He's been on the line the whole time. He's recording everything. Every word you said is being streamed to a secure server. Miller froze. For the first time, I saw real doubt in his eyes. The sheriff checked his phone, frantic. "He's bluffing." Miller roared, but his hand was shaking. "Am I?" I hit the speaker. "I have it, Mark." Julian Graves' voice crackled through. "I've patched in. The State Bureau of Investigation. They're 10 minutes out. Stand down, Miller. It's over." The silence that followed was unbearable. The deputies lowered their weapons, realizing too late which side they were on. The sheriff turned away, his shoulders collapsing. Under years of corruption, Miller didn't move. He stared at me with pure, focused hatred. He raised his gun one last time. Then sirens howled in the distance. Not theirs. The real law, coming to clean up the mess. The truth didn't set me free. Not at first. I spent a year in a minimum security facility for the original hit and run. It was the hardest year of my life, but it was also the first time I'd slept through the night. In 3 years, Leo was exonerated and received a massive settlement from the state. He's back in school now, trying to rebuild a life that was stolen from him by a coward and a corrupt badge. Miller and the sheriff are serving life. Turns out, once the thread started pulling, the whole suit came apart. They found evidence of a dozen other closed cases that were nothing but fabrications. I'm out now. I live in a different state, in a quiet house near a lake, with Chloe. We don't talk about Highway 42 much. We don't have to. The silence isn't a burden anymore. It's just peace. But sometimes when it rains, I still look at the bumper of my car. And remember the lesson. I learned the hard way. Confessing might make things worse, but the truth is the only thing that can eventually make them right. And that's where the story ends. Not with sirens, or gunshots, or flashing lights, but with quiet, with a man who finally learned that running only delays the cost, and silence only feeds a lie. The truth doesn't rescue you instantly. It doesn't soften the fall. Sometimes it breaks your life first, but it leaves something behind that lies never can. A chance to sleep, a chance to breathe, a chance to live without looking over your shoulder. So if you ever find yourself standing at the edge of a choice, wondering whether to hide or to face what you've done, remember this. The truth might hurt more today, but it's the only thing that doesn't come back for you later.